Got it. Thanks everybody for joining us this evening. So nice to see a lot of orange shirts already. Definitely appreciate that. Great for our photo. I hope everybody was okay finding an orange shirt and didn't have to like creep into the back of their closet into a storage bin of old shirts and try and find something. So
Maybe
that was my story. So, but again, thanks we're on our FLC call today, our kind of bi-monthly, every other month call. Definitely appreciate you taking your evening with us. We're by 8 o'clock on the East Coast, 5 o'clock here on the West Coast. So appreciate you spending the next hour with us as we're in this kind of final prep. I mean, in a week's time, we should all be together in Maryland at the Gaylord in a ballroom, talking about how we're going to in our state breakouts probably. So that's going to be really exciting to see everybody again. Super excited about that. I know we've all been working really hard, staff, committee, FLCs. So we're gonna. Is there anybody? Do we still have anybody else left, Jackie?
I think we are pretty good. I'll keep moderating the waiting room, but I think we're pretty good to get going.
All right, then we'll just we'll get started for the interest of time today. So that we are in the final countdown to our Hill Day experience. Tonight is June 7th. So like I said, we are 1 week out. We've got our staff members here. Kate, the Director of Government Affairs, Leslie, the Senior Manager for Government Affairs, Jackie Ball, who I'm so excited is back to help and consult for our Hill Day experience. And then tonight we've got the National PTA Legislative Committee players in our special performance. We're really excited for tonight to go through some scenarios with you about what you might encounter in some of your Hill visits, from people who are very friendly to the, to not so friendly possibly, or just the in between. So you never quite know what you're going to get. So we're really going to try and run you through some scenarios to make you feel comfortable for what's going to happen in a week's time. So tonight we've got the Wear Orange photo, which is a gun violence prevention organization. Staff has been kind of doing things last week, and so we felt it was a great call for us to wear orange. So thanks everybody who was able to do that. We'll go through the schedule of events again for the Hill Day experience, final logistics, final prep, and then we've got the meeting scenarios that we'll run through. And then if there is time at the end, again, for any Q&A that might come up. But thank you to everybody who's been sending in questions and comments to the legcon@pta.org email. So always very helpful to get those all consolidated into one place. So we really, really appreciate that. So we'll just go ahead and keep moving forward. So the Wear Orange photo.
I'm going to stop the share now, Colin, so we can do that photo.
Yeah.
See, Leslie, does that work there with our?
It definitely works. So we have 3 pages worth of people, which is great. But if everybody who is wearing an orange shirt can turn on their camera and be ready, I'm just going to take a screenshot of each of the screens, and then I'll work my graphic design magic to kind of put everybody into one picture. So if we can just, if everybody's ready, I will get my computer ready. All right, so you don't know which screen you're on, so just keep smiling, or whatever you plan to be doing for this picture, just hold it for as long as possible. So, all right, 1, 2, 3. All right, next picture. Thank you to those people. You don't know who you are though, so keep smiling. 1, 2, 3. And last one for the people in the back. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Great. All right, we're good.
Sweet.
Thanks, everyone. Just Wear Orange is a campaign by our national partners, Every Town for Gun Safety. And in case folks missed it, we also had a piece in USA Today this morning that I will share now. And I just think this is a really great opportunity for us to really build the momentum towards our Hill Day, and our asks around gun violence prevention could not be more important. So thank you all.
All right, I am attempting to spotlight our Ledge Committee members in advance of our, I get back to the screen share if I can here. Can you see my screen, everybody? No, I think let me go back. Sorry, everybody. This toggling between screens. Let's see here. There we go. All right. Okay, so we just did our Wear Orange photo. I am going to touch on a few just logistical pieces regarding the Hill Day experience. And I hope that, and I know many of you, I think, are also registered for convention. So just wanted to share just a recap of our schedule for that whole week, kicking off on Tuesday, June 14th at 5 p.m. The Hill Day Experience welcome and reception. The registration period for Hill Day Experience will start at 3 p.m. All of these events are at the Gaylord National Harbor Convention Center, except for the visits on Capitol Hill on June 15th. So we'll kick off the evening at 5 p.m. and then at 6:15 we will break out from our reception and meet in 3 different rooms for state breakouts, where you will have the time to connect with your state delegations and practice kind of how your kind of run of show for your meetings on June 15th. On June 15th, we'll be taking to Capitol Hill. We hope, we've asked that you don't schedule any meetings before 10 a.m. However, we understand that sometimes you may need to do what you need to do in order to schedule meetings. We'll kick off the day with a breakfast though at 7:30 a.m. bright and early, but I know it's probably going to be, actually I know it'll be a very delicious breakfast. So hopefully you will not miss that. We'll be presenting our congressional and advocacy awards to our well-deserving awardees that morning. Then there will be complimentary transportation to Capitol Hill, which I'll talk about in a few more minutes. And then from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., you'll be on Capitol Hill meeting with congressional offices, and then returning on your own to the Gaylord for a 5:30 p.m. debrief and celebratory reception that evening. Just wanted to highlight the advocacy sessions at convention as well. And it wasn't 8:01 a.m. Sorry about that. That is a typo. I thought I fixed that this afternoon. I apologize for that. But that session is actually 8 a.m. to 9:15 a.m. on June 17th. My apologies. I will make sure that is corrected moving forward. And then at 4:45 p.m. there's a symposium on maximizing in-person learning. And then on June 18th, there's 2 sessions as well, one at 1 p.m. On school nutrition and meals, and then at 2:30 on addressing the youth mental health crisis. So those are our sessions that the government affairs team is working diligently on during the convention portion of this event. All right, so just a few more, going over some more logistical elements to Hill Day. I know it's a lot of moving parts. You all have a lot on your plates, not only in your personal lives, but also as PTA leaders. So really appreciate all that you are doing on behalf of national PTA, your state PTAs, and certainly for our nation's youth. So just wanted to highlight a few more kind of logistical things. I mentioned the transportation, the complimentary shuttle bus service from the Gaylord to Capitol Hill. That first bus will be leaving at 8:50 a.m. So those of you that have meetings at 10 a.m., we urge you, we actually implore you to take that 8:50 a.m. bus to get to Capitol Hill to make it to your 10 a.m. meeting. And we'll be doing some direct outreach to individuals that have those 10 a.m. meetings just to make sure that you're all set to get on that bus and get to the hill in time. The last shuttle bus will leave the Gaylord at 9:15 a.m. So we really urge you once to have all your stuff that you need for Hill Day with you at the breakfast, so you don't have to go up to your room and then walk back to the bus, kind of the bus loop or bus staging location, because that will take some extra time and unfortunately probably will not allow you to catch those buses. So urge you to be there as early as you can, and we are scheduled to end the breakfast right around 8:50, if not prior to 8:50 a.m. So again, if you have a 10 a.m. meeting, kind of be prepared to exit a little bit before the breakfast ends to get to that 8:50 a.m. bus departure. And then everyone is responsible for their return to the Gaylord National Harbor back from their Hill Day meetings, because again, everyone's meetings and schedules are different, so we want to make sure that you you can get back when you need to get back. And then I think on here, I thought I had a little, oops, no, I thought I had a little circle here where the bus loop was, but maybe that's on the next one on another slide. All right, just a couple other logistical pieces. What to wear and bring. I know we've talked about this before, but making sure you wear business attire with comfortable walking shoes. My best piece of advice, particularly for the ladies. I know it's a lot easier for us in terms of bringing another pair of shoes, whether it's a pair of flip-flops or comfortable slip-ons. Gentlemen, I urge you not to try to break in a new set of shoes on Hill Day. That will probably cause a lot of pain to your feet. So wear comfortable shoes for Hill Day. And then, you know, keep an eye on the weather forecast. We never know what it's going to be like in DC. So keep an eye on the weather in terms of what, if anything, you may need to bring. And then flagging that you please bring a face mask in case it's requested in a building or in certain offices. I know some offices have requested, they're calling it courtesy masking. Some staffers or other individuals in the office or in that building may be wearing a mask, and they're asking that if those individuals are wearing masks, or if you are, they will likely wear a mask as well. In terms of security, think of it like an airport. Again, there's metal detectors at all visitors' entrances, and being mindful of what you're bringing with you. If you don't really need it for your meeting, then I probably wouldn't bring it in terms of any kind of objects or things that might, if you wouldn't bring it to an airport, I wouldn't bring it to the Capitol. And then any materials you may need for your meetings, we will be providing PTA totes, so you can put your extra pair of shoes in there, as well as any notepad or pens, paper, anything you may need, you know, your copies of the Hill Ask, whatever you may need to bring with you for your comfort and success for your Hill meetings. Oh, so here I talked about the bus location drop-off. As you can see here, this blue arrow is where the bus location drop-off is. And as you can see, it's kind of smack dab in the middle. The United States Capitol is right there in the middle. And if you're looking to your sort of like, to, I guess I would just say due north right now on this picture is the Senate office buildings, and to the south on this picture is the House office buildings. So you will need to take a little bit of walk again once we get dropped off on Capitol Hill. We are hoping to take a photo at each bus drop-off time. So we'd love to get that. It's a great photo because the Capitol is literally right behind you again. So hopefully we can make that all happen on the 15th. And then just a little piece of advice. I always found this really helpful on Capitol Hill. Navigating Capitol Hill can be challenging. I know many of you have been up there before, but the numbering system on the House side is quite unique. There's 3 office buildings on the House side: Cannon, Longworth, and Rayburn. The Cannon office buildings are traditionally numbered. So Cannon 1, 2, 3 means that location is actually it's starting with 0. So it's like Cannon 1, 2, 3 is actually the second floor. 1, 2, 3, 4 on Longworth is actually the second floor on Longworth. and Rayburn 2345 is 3rd floor of Rayburn. So, but there's lots of signage, and everyone is very helpful. And I know from what I understand, many offices are escorting you from a visitor's entrance when you get into the Capitol. So you shouldn't have too much trouble navigating the hill when you get there. And then for the Senate side, excuse me, oops, that slide did not seem to want to come up. My apologies. It is blank. I apologize on that. On the Senate office buildings, the office numbers are pretty straightforward. There's Russell, Dirksen, and Hart, and they are very straightforward. So if it says Russell 123, it's the 1st floor and it's room 123. Same thing with Dirksen. So thankfully the Senate did not make their building and office number locations very complicated, which is helpful. And so final prep for your Hill meetings, I just wanted to flag some friendly and helpful reminders as we are in the closing days or coming up within a week of our Hill Day experience. First, the first 3 resources that are listed here are all under resources for state leaders on pta.org/LegCon. The bill endorsement list, I think hopefully is posted or about to be posted this evening, if not by tomorrow. And then we also have the thank you letter template, which will also be posted here shortly, if not in the coming this evening or tomorrow, for your use following your Hill Day meetings, to reach back out to each office to thank them for the time that you met with them. All right, so a few other tips and best practices and reminders regarding your meetings, just setting a few expectations, who you are meeting with. Sometimes you may be initially scheduled to meet with the member themselves, but at the last minute they're pulled away. So you may be meeting with a staffer, or initially you thought you were meeting with staffer X, but then you're meeting with staffer Y. Always go with the flow. Staffers, I feel, are just as important, if not sometimes more important than the members, because they know the policy way more than the member does. And so just be prepared for anything. The member may pop in for 5 minutes, want to get the photo, hang out, shake hands, and then may exit. But the meat of your meeting is typically with the staffer. If you can't get a meeting with the member, of course, we urge you to get a meeting with a staffer, particularly the education legislative assistant is typically the best or first person to go to. And then obviously they would bring in other staffers as needed, depending on the topics you are discussing for your meeting. I would also flag who you may, or excuse me, the length of your meeting. Meetings can last anywhere between 15 to 30 minutes. So always being prepared for kind of that elevator pitch. Like if you only get that 10 to 15 minutes because the meeting started late, the member's running to another meeting and you have to walk in the hallway with them, whatever the case may be. So just be prepared for varying lengths of meetings. And some meetings can last 30 minutes or more because it's just such a great conversation. I'll also flag, I didn't put it on here, but the location of your meeting. This is a great photo of an excellent office and meeting room in a member's office. However, there are times you may be meeting in the hallway, or you could be meeting with the member and our staff person as they are walking to another meeting. So as always, being prepared on the fly for whatever may occur in your meeting or wherever your meeting may be held. And then lastly, just flagging, making sure that you assign roles for each meeting, that you have a key spokesperson, a timekeeper, someone who can kind of wrap the meeting up if things are starting to go a little long, or you need to kind of go to the next point that you have in your meeting. And then we also recommend that you have somebody who is tasked with speaking on each of the asks, and so that they are prepared to maybe answer any questions or give a summary As you'll see, we have those scenarios coming up that our ledge committee is showing you how that can be done. And then last but not least, having someone who's a note taker is also really helpful. So if there's specific follow-up or specific questions that an office may have, you have documentation for that and can either share that with National PTA or follow up as appropriately within your state PTA. One thing that I've been seeing over the last couple of days is we're hearing that some offices are just requesting virtual meetings. Certainly understand that some offices are doing that, and certainly you need to make the best decision around how that fits in with your schedule, whether you do that on June 15th or you arrange to have that virtual meeting a different day due to your schedule. Obviously, preference is in-person meetings. I also was sharing with another FLC that, you know, maybe if they aren't able to meet in person on the Hill just because of logistics and just the security, maybe requesting an in-person meeting at their district or state office might be a good option as well following the Hill Day experience. All right, and so just the last 3 more friendly reminders. If you haven't already, please send the Hill Day advocacy folder to each congressional office that you're meeting with in advance. That is so helpful to make your meeting smooth and make sure that the office staff and the staffer knows exactly what you're there to talk about, and they can do their own research in advance of the meeting as well. We also ask that you submit your scheduled Hill meetings to National PTA via the Hill submission form by tomorrow. Certainly recognize and understand that you may not have all of your meetings scheduled by tomorrow, and we'll just keep checking in with you to check, to see how those meetings are going, and certainly are here to support you in any way. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to email the legecon@pta.org email, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. All right. You're so close to the special performance by the legislation committee. I just wanted to go over briefly the elements of a great meeting that you're going to see here, and some examples of maybe a not so great meeting, but of course that is not on PTA at all. It's sometimes the staffer that can be the difficult or challenging person in the meeting. So just wanted to flag here for you before we go into the scenarios is the elements of a good meeting. First and foremost is a good introduction. You really shouldn't take no more than 5 minutes. So this is really why it's important to have a spokesperson who can kind of summarize who's in the room. You don't want to have everyone introduce themselves because that could take up to like 10 minutes. And then you've already maybe cut into half of the time of your meeting. You really want to make sure that you get to the meat of your meeting, which is the specific request or ask that you are there to talk about. So after your introductions, quick introductions, you want to tell them what you're here to talk about, kind of a quick overview of the Hill ask, and then you want to get into that meat, the specific request related to the member's office. Every staffer is waiting for that ask. Like they know you're there for a reason. So if you're not asking for them to do something specific, they're kind of like, when's it coming? Give us that ask. So make sure you get to that specific request. And then lastly is thanking them for their time and inviting them to come see PTA in action at your local public school. And with that, I am going to stop talking and turn it over to our legislation committee, who I'm going to spotlight here to kick it off. We're going to go through 3 scenarios: a friendly office, an ambivalent office, and an unfriendly office. So I will turn it over to the legislation committee to kick it off here and make sure I get everyone spotlighted.
All right, can y'all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Just wanna make sure.
Everyone can hear me okay?
You can.
Just want to check before we start our first scenario.
I think we're going to take down the slides so we can see all of you as well.
Okay. Thank you so much for meeting with us today. You may know some of us in the room, but I do want to do some quick introductions of who's here today representing the Tennessee PTA. We have Sarah from Knoxville. We have our president, Dwight Hunter from Chattanooga, and our legislative chair, Christy Carol Highfield from Chattanooga. And we would like to discuss with you our Hill Day ask.
Hey, thank you for having us. We shared with you in advance our Hill Day Digital Advocacy folder, and some of the things included in that are investing in our nation's youth, enacting sensible community safety and youth violence prevention measures, addressing the youth mental health crisis that's going on now, and of course, the reauthorization of the Child Nutrition Act, which is set to expire at the end of the month. Like I said, we shared our Hill Day Advocacy folder with you via email prior to the meeting. I really hope you had a chance to read it. If you didn't receive it, I'll make sure to get it to you ASAP.
Leah, are you able to fill in? I think Chris had to drop off. He had to check out. So, sorry,
Okay,
if not, I'm happy to do it. Sorry about that.
No problem. Of course.
Okay,
I've read
thank
your
you.
Hill Day advocacy folder. You know, Representative Rourke supports PTA and so many of the bills and issues your association supports. Addressing youth mental health and community and youth violence prevention are so important to our boss. As you know, she serves on the House Judiciary Committee and is already a co-sponsor of several of the bills listed in your Hill Ask, including the bipartisan background checks, Gun Violence Prevention Research Act, and increasing access to mental health in schools.
You know, Colin, we are just so thankful for Representative Roderick's leadership when it comes to gun safety, violence prevention, and mental health. These issues are so important to so many communities nationwide. And really, because the legislation really helps allow schools, when it comes to mental health, to hire and retain mental health providers, ensuring that more students have access to real quality mental health care. I just want to express that it's so vital that schools are equipped to address our nation's mental health crisis that's going on now, as school is really where young people spend most of their waking hours. We've heard from our National PTA Government Affairs staff that a House package on mental health is moving pretty quickly through the House. We hope Representative Roderick will support the package and weigh in House leadership to ensure that its passage.
I'll definitely reach out to the relevant committees of jurisdiction and find out what the status is of this package.
You know, how else can we really support your efforts to elevate when it comes to gun safety and youth violence prevention among more of our members in our congressional delegation?
Thank you for that question. We work with Representative Manel's office on other issues, and it'd be great if you could highlight the Bipartisan Background Check Act in your meeting with them, as we think they might be persuaded to co-sponsor, especially hearing from PTA on this issue.
Thank you so much for sharing that information. We will definitely make sure to follow up with Representative Monell on that legislation. We are so appreciative of your time and your leadership on so many of the critical issues facing our nation's children and their schools. We'd love to invite you and the member to see PTA in action when you're back in the state or in the district.
It's our pleasure. We would love to come visit you when we're back in the district. I can connect you with our district scheduler who can help you make those arrangements.
I just want to thank you again, and please don't hesitate to reach out to us or our National PTA's Government Affairs Directors, Clay Caball, if you have any additional questions regarding our Hill Day Ask. We really look forward to continuing to work with you and Representative Roderick.
Wonderful. Excellent. Excellent. I think there's an Oscar nomination in your future, everybody. Just wanted to highlight a few things and then open it up if there's any questions or other tips or reminders anyone wanted to share about meeting with a friendly office. Just again, flagging really the importance of meeting with a friendly office is to continue to thank them for their leadership on PTA priorities and being a champion for children and the issues PTA cares about. The key on this with a friendly office is asking them to go an extra mile. Can they speak on the floor regarding this issue? Can they sign on to a Dear Colleague letter that the government affairs team will flag for you, or share with FLCs regarding a particular issue? Or can they weigh in with leadership regarding, like the example in this friendly meeting was, there's a possible mental health package, or sounds like very imminent mental health package moving through the House. So if that's something that member can weigh in on, if they're not already doing so, to really flag for them. And I'll pause there and see if any of the other government affairs colleagues have anything to add to that, or if any FLCs wanted to share anything regarding meeting with a friendly office, or any other legislation committee members as well.
You got a question in the chat box, Jackie.
Oh, okay, let's see.
I was just responding to that, Susan. We will plan on a Hill Day meeting survey for you all to be able to submit feedback, any follow-up needed, if someone committed to potentially co-sponsoring, things like that. So we absolutely want that follow-up to be pretty robust and genuine on the tail end. But by way of the friendly office, I guess I would just share, I think sometimes it's easy for the staff of a friendly office to be like, oh yeah, we got you. We always got your back. But then making sure there is something more tangible. If they're already a champion, there's always something more to continue to build that relationship.
Kate, this is Erica Nelson. I'm the FLC for Illinois. And something we did different this year, and we're getting some good response to, is we emailed out, we took the 3 policy priorities and then formed just a simple paragraph about each, asking school superintendents, leaders that we know in districts, to choose 1 or all 3 of the areas and just respond to these questions, to share some stories, because we have a very small delegation. It's just Carolyn, our state president, and myself. So we've gotten 3 back and are just great tools for us to be able to bring into the legislator where this district is, in case there's 2 in that case, but also just to share that voice of leaders from the state of Illinois with those other legislators. So I think for all 3, this will be helpful. And then, when we get to the one where they're not such a friendly voice on some issues, right, we'll have to frame it a little bit differently. But I'm really pleased that we've gotten some responses, tired as everybody is. They see this as important.
That's awesome. Congrats. That's really cool.
Any other questions or comments, or anything you want to share on a friendly office meeting before we go to our next scenario?
It'll probably be good to lay it out as to who's playing what, in case people can figure that out.
Oh, sure thing.
I was actually, yeah.
I can do that.
That's a good flag, Anita.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
Absolutely. All right, I'm going to stop sharing as we move to scenario 2. And in scenario 2, we're meeting with an ambivalent office. And in this, we have Leah, who's PTA member 1, Stella, who's PTA member 2, Penny, who's playing PTA member 3, and Colin, who is the staffer.
Ready to go?
Let's do it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for meeting with us today. You may know some of us in the room, but I want to do a quick introduction of who's here today representing California State PTA. We've got Stella from San Diego, Penny is from Fort Bragg, and I'm from the Sacramento area, and Davis.
Okay, thank you. Just a little quick overview of the ask for today. We're asking you to consider investing in our nation's youth, enacting sensible community safety and youth violence prevention measures, addressing the youth mental health crisis, and authorization of the Child Nutrition Act. We shared our Hill Day digital advocacy folder with you via email prior to this meeting, and I hope you had a chance to read it. But if you didn't, no problem. I'll make sure I get a copy to you ASAP.
I get so many emails. I'm sure it's in there, but I don't really know if I've gotten it yet.
Oh, of course. I can imagine the number of emails you get in just in one day, but we'll make sure you get it as soon as possible. But in the meantime, I'll have Penny from Lexington to share with you a summary of our asks regarding the community safety and youth violence prevention. Penny.
Thank you so much, Stella. So the first thing I want to do is, Colin, I'm not sure if you're familiar with an acronym, if you're familiar with ACEs, which are Adverse Childhood Experiences. And our ask in terms of youth violence and community safety really addresses that. We're talking about investing in evidence-based community violence intervention strategies, requiring a wait period and a comprehensive background check for all individuals prior to purchasing a firearm, funding for research on gun violence prevention and encouraging reporting on school crime and safety, preventing discrimination and harmful disciplinary practices in schools, and encouraging gun safety education and safe storage of firearms. So when we're talking about ACEs, those adverse childhood experiences, our overarching notion of what's going on here is we have a person's exposure to gun violence and other traumatic events in childhood significantly impact their mental and physical health through adulthood, including being at increased likelihood of abusing drugs and alcohol, suffering from depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder, failing or having difficulties in school, and becoming involved in the justice system. So when we talk about that failing in school, this is our wheelhouse, right? As advocates, we have to understand that all of these things impact how our babies learn. Whether or not they're absent because they're too traumatized, they don't want to be there, or whether or not when they're there, they're not engaged or they can't really pay attention and succeed the way they should. So we're asking a lot here, but I think when it comes to our children, it's not too much. So we're also urging members of Congress to co-sponsor the following bills: Break the Cycle of Violence Act, the Bipartisan Background Checks Act, School Shooting Safety and Preparedness Act, Protecting Our Students in Schools Act, Keeping All Students Safe Act, and the Safe Gun Storage Act of 2021.
And Colin, we're also asking for some help around student mental health. I'm sure you're aware and your member is concerned about the impacts that the pandemic has had on our students and their mental well-being across the nation. Over 140,000 US children have lost a primary or secondary caregiver due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So, it's a real crisis. 40% of children will experience a mental health concern by 7th grade, and 1 in 5 students experience a mental health and behavioral health concern every year. I'm on my school board, and I'm hearing of frequent calls for mental health services for students who have acute mental health crises. So it's something that we're seeing, locally, and we're seeing across the nation. So our ask is for you to address the current youth mental health crisis, ensure that all students have access to mental health resources at school and in their community, including targeted supports for underserved populations and children experiencing trauma. Like Penny said, those ACEs are an extreme stress on children, and the trauma they've experienced needs to be addressed with professional help. We want to encourage schools to adopt practices that establish safe, supportive, and inclusive learning environments for all students. We want to promote social and emotional learning, including resources for families to support this critical practice in the home. We want to extend the pipeline of school-based mental health professionals and allow for schools to be reimbursed for services through Medicaid. And we'd like to provide support services for whole families impacted by addiction. My own family has been impacted by addiction. I lost a child to addiction. So it's a personal ask for me as well as people across the nation. The bills that we'd ask you to consider being a co-sponsor are Increasing Access to Mental Health in Schools Act. It's Elementary and Secondary School Counseling Act, the Safe Schools Improvement Acts, Rise from Trauma Act, and Family Support Services for Addiction Act. And I will pass it back over to Stella.
Okay, I want to just give a quick overview of the child nutrition authorization. We really want Congress to pass the child nutrition and reauthorization pact this year. That includes to make sure that our school meals are healthy and nutritious for our growing children and teens and consistent with our dietary guidelines for Americans. We want to include enabling schools to successfully transition after the pandemic back to following the evidence-based meals patterns through higher reimbursement rates, administrative flexibilities, and technical assistance around production and procurement and preparation. And additionally, to encourage our schools to adopt student wellness policies with the impact of families and provide adequate time for kids to eat and play. Now, the federal child nutrition program was last reauthorized over a decade ago by bipartisan Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act back in 2010. Now, we urge Congress to strengthen and improve access to quality and nutritious school meals for all children, with another historical reauthorization of programs. Today, most of our schools in the US, at least 91%, participate in at least one of the federal child nutrition programs. And prior to COVID-19 pandemic, each school day, almost 30 million children participated in the National School Lunch Program, and almost 15 million participated in the school breakfast program. So for many of these children, breakfast and lunch provided at school may be their only source of nutrition for the entire day. So on average, a child will consume about 1/3 or 1/2 of their daily calories during the school day. And for children living in poverty, the risk of obesity declines substantially each year after the implementation of the 2010 reauthorization, such that obesity prevalence would have been about 47% higher in 2018 if the nutrition standards had not been updated. So PTA's recommendations really include the increase of rates of food security and obesity experienced by our children and families due to the ongoing COVID-19 crisis, persistent workforce shortages, supply chain issues facing our nation's school nutrition departments. Congress must act now to ensure that the administrative flexibilities that have been available since the onset of the crisis continues.
Well, that certainly was a lot. I definitely appreciate you sharing those with the office. So what do you want specifically from us?
Well, we are here today to ask your support for two important nutrition-related bills. As you know, the Child Nutrition Act is well overdue for reauthorization, and we want to make sure that these bills are included in the reauthorization, the Universal School Meals Program Act and the Healthy Meal Time Act. Can we count on Senator Claybar to add her name as a co-sponsor to the Universal School Meals Program Act, and then consider introducing the Healthy Meal Time Act in the Senate? Now, currently there is a House bill on healthy meals at this time.
I'll tell you, this is like way above my pay grade at this point, but I'll need to review all of these bills and get the senator's approval.
I know you're so busy today, and we appreciate your time with us. We want to share with you why it's so important that children have access to quality, nutritious school meals. In my community, especially during the pandemic, we saw an incredible number of families relying on coming to school and picking up meals in order to have food throughout the course of the day. My first job in PTA, the way I got involved was because kids were taking lunches out of backpacks. And I realized the kids that were taking the lunches were hungry kids. And I literally went to the teacher and the principal to see what I could do. So I've experienced it personally. And at one point in my life, my dad lost his job and I had to rely on the school meal program. So I strongly encourage you to really think about like the real kids. I don't know if you have kids yourself, but most of us here have been in rooms full of kids. And if you look at a kid's face and think about how hungry they are, that's a hard way to go to school. And imagine your work day if you hadn't had lunch, how hard it'd be for you. So let's do it for the kids. I think it's worth your time. And I think your member could, get some good photo ops.
You know, you're very right. I am very busy, and now I'm actually kind of hungry. But as I shared before, like I got to run these requests I got to run a flagpole with my legislative director and then get Senator Claybaugh's approval before I can commit to anything.
Oh, sure, absolutely. We understand that. But if there's any additional information you need or we can provide for you to help you make a decision or in support of both the Universal School Meals Program Act and introducing the Healthy Meals Time Act in the Senate, please just let us know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe my guess is that the digital kit you guys sent out is probably somewhere in my email. I just don't know, where that is or what I can commit to right now.
Okay, no problem, no problem. We're here to help as best we can. So why don't we just follow up with you with some additional information that we can gather from our school district and our schools to access for you on the nutritious school meals, and we'll send that out to you as soon as possible and then check back with you just in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you so much for your time. We've really appreciated meeting with you today. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us or National PTA's Government Affairs Director, Kate Claybaugh, no relation, if you have any additional questions regarding our Hill Day asks.
Well, thank you. It was a pleasure to meet you, and thanks for coming in to join us today.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, so the Oscar goes to Colin because that indifference and that boredom.
Oh yeah, I'm like verbally slapping you out here over here in Illinois.
My gosh, Colin.
That's a lot. What do you mean?
So another excellent acting job all around. One thing, just a few tips here, just to keep in mind. Remember, always be nice, even if you do have a very ambivalent staffer, or sometimes you may end up meeting with a very, very, shall we say, youthful staffer. Don't be condescending, that you never know where that staffer may end up in several years. They could be a next representative or senator. But again, always be nice, and follow up is the key to start building that relationship. And again, inviting them to see the work in action. I think several people commented during the session. I think one of the suggestions I would have with this kind of scenario is it does get hard. Like, I know I used to be a teacher, and when I didn't get a reaction from my students, I just kept wanting to talk and hope that something would catch their attention. It's really important that you're succinct in your overview and then get to the meat of the specific request. If you throw everything at the office and hope something sticks, nothing's going to stick because it's just too much. So getting the sort of the initial first 5 or so minutes is like intro, here's why we're here today, big picture overview, and then here's what I want you to do, member X. I want you to sign on to this bill and that bill, and here's why. And so making sure you really get to that meat, because otherwise, as you saw, Colin got really lost. He was like, you just threw so much at me. I don't even know what you just said. And I got 10,000 other things to do when I get back to my desk. So being really focused and specific, and making sure that, even sometimes a good question is like, hey, do you know anything about the Universal School Meals Act? And then if they say, no, I don't, you can say, oh, well, this bill is really important to us because X, Y, Z, and we'd love member X to sponsor it. So just some helpful tips on an ambivalent office, or an office or a staffer that just really either is not interested or doesn't really know a lot. I don't know if anyone else has anything they want to share from the Government Affairs team or Legislation Committee, or even FLCs before we go on to our last performance.
Jackie, I'd just add that the Hill staff, in addition to being youthful, sometimes they might come off as more ambivalent, but it might be because they really don't know a lot about the issue area that you're talking about. And so a little bit to save face, they might look disinterested, but actually I think it's a great point. So I just wanted to underscore that, Jackie, about, be willing to take a breath and pause, ask them if they have questions. And if you almost need to start from a 101, our schools get, federal child nutrition programs. That's where you got to start. Meet them where they're at. We know how to do that as PTA, meet communities and families where they're at. And sometimes health staffers, especially the less experienced ones, need the same grace. So
Something too that we found has been helpful is sometimes the staffers have grown up in the community, like in the state or gone to school. And so a few minutes of talking just to kind of connect with them about like where they went to school or where they grew up, their mom's a teacher, something that kind of develops a little bit of rapport has made the whole conversation way less nerve-wracking and softer. And then they kind of feel like, oh yeah, I went to that school, or oh yeah, I remember the lunches were cruddy back then, something, and that kind of gets the flow going.
Great point, Leah. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Any other questions before we go to our next, or comments before we go to our next scenario? All right, so our last scenario has Penny as PTA member 1. This is with a meeting with an unfriendly office. And Sarah is PTA member 2, and Anita is staffer.
Are we ready? Oh, Anita, thank you so much for meeting with us today. You may know some of us in the room, but I just want to do a quick introduction. I am Penny from Lexington, and Sarah is from Frankfort, Kentucky. Sarah?
Yes, thank you for having us. I just wanted to give a quick overview of what we're here today and what we are asking as part of our Hill Ask. We are really asking for our elected leaders to invest in our nation's youth, to enact really sensible community safety and youth violence prevention measures, especially in light of what has happened, the tragedy that happened recently. Also, something that's dear to my heart is addressing the youth mental health crisis, and of course, the reauthorization of the Child Nutrition Act. And I know we shared our Hill Day digital advocacy folder with you via email prior to the meeting. I hope you had a chance to read it. If you didn't, I'll make sure to get it to you ASAP.
Oh, yeah, we did receive that, but Member Trainer believes the federal government has taken a strong role in education and feel that these decisions regarding education, nutrition, and the community safety and violence prevention, and particularly gun control, let's just be honest, they're best left to be at the state and local levels.
You know, Anita, I appreciate you sharing Member Trainer's views. The voices of students, though, parents, families, educators, and the community are critical in addressing the critical issues facing our nation. So while Member Trainer may believe that, we do believe that the federal government has an important role in providing resources and sound policy for the benefit of society. We'd be happy to gather information from our schools, district, or community on how current federal resources and specific education, nutrition, youth mental health, and community safety and youth violence prevention programs are being utilized and benefiting our children and community.
Okay, but let me just really truly be honest with you, Penny. I'm not sure if that's going to move Member Trainer's position.
Well, while we're here today, I'd really like to ask for your support on the bipartisan Increasing Access to Mental Health in Schools Act. You know, this bill is just so important to PTA in our communities, but please, I just want to tell you why it's important to me. And as you well know, 40% of children will experience a mental health crisis by 7th grade. My daughter is part of that 40%. I almost lost my daughter to suicide and self-harming because there was not enough staff in the schools and she was overlooked. As one of your constituents, I can't tell you how this is repeated over and over in your district, how important it is to address this. Because I can assure you, I can tell you my daughter's story, but I certainly can tell you there are at least 20 more just in her grade level, if not more. We cannot keep waiting and keep losing more and more children, because when it comes to education, you certainly cannot educate a child who is no longer in this world anymore. So we really ask, and we know that the office really made some statements regarding mental health care and why we feel that your voice on this related issue is really powerful. And it really will help and make sure that any future mental health packages include this important bill. Would member Trainer be able to co-sponsor this bill possibly?
I mean, we really feel for you, Sarah. But I mean, we'll have to look more closely at that bill, to be honest with you. I mean, do you know who the lead sponsor for the bill is right now?
100%. The lead sponsors are Representative Chu and Fitzpatrick. Is there any other information that I or my team can provide with you to help in the decision regarding this bill?
Did you say Representative Chu? That's the lead sponsor? I mean, let's be honest. Representative Chu sponsors every bill under consideration by Congress. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I'll have to get back to you on what information we may need, but on another note, what's PTA's position on the Parents' Bill of Rights or the Second Amendment? I mean, where do you all stand on those things? Because we got to keep our guns. So, and that's where we stand right now.
Anita, I am so glad you brought up the Parents' Bill of Rights. As the oldest and largest child advocacy organization in this country, I have to tell you that with advocacy, all of our rights are set in place. So if we're going to talk about a Parents' Bill of Rights, what we're asking is that at the state level, which is what you prefer, that every state tell parents what they can and cannot do. With an advocacy organization like PTA, we always know what our rights are because we're aware and we're active. So what we're asking here is that we recognize that this is an issue that the states are grappling with, but we are here today to focus on what Congress can do to address the issues we previously shared. If you have any questions regarding the position, National PTA's positions on all of your other issues that you're discussing, you are more than welcome to contact Kate Clayball, National PTA's Director of Government Affairs. Her email address is listed on the Hill Day Digital Advocacy folder.
Well, thanks, Penny, but let's be honest, PTA really needs to take a stand on those issues that I brought up. I mean, because we get calls from constituents every day on this issue, and PTA needs to align, with what we're hearing from the constituents as well. So, I mean, can you all do that?
Thank you again, for sharing that with us. We really hope that you consider co-sponsoring this bipartisan Increasing Access to Mental Health Schools Act. We'll follow up with you in the next 2 weeks. And, we really are looking forward to continuing this dialogue with this office on this particular issue.
Sounds good.
Thank you again, Anita. We really do appreciate you sharing your time today. We appreciate you being able to share with you why these issues are so critical for Congress to address. We'd like to invite you to come to see PTA in action when you're back in your state or district, because when you say that what we really should support and what side we should come down on, I think if you were on the ground with us with those boots on at the local unit level, you would really see the work that we do.
Thank you. I'll send you the contact information so you can reach out to the scheduler, and we'll see what we can do about scheduling a state or district visit, when they get back to the district.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Excellent.
Anita! Listen, see, when you said y'all really got to cook.
Every player in that, y'all did incredible.
You did. Great work, everybody. Great work. Just a few tips, and I know we're at our closing time, so I appreciate all of you who can stay on just for a few more minutes. If not, as I mentioned in email, this is recorded, and we're hoping to share out some of these snippets of the scenarios so that you can share them with your state delegation as well in preparation for Hill Day. The unfriendly offices are hard. I mean, actually, I've had members say those very things that were said in that last scenario to me and or PTA members about like, well, that person sponsors every bill. I'm not doing that. So that can happen, and everyone in that scenario handled it so graciously, shared very poignant and important stories and rationale and explanations and sort of the why. Again, going back to even our last scenario, you know, find common ground if you can. Make your ask one that they can support, as particularly if you know you're walking into an office that is not very supportive across the board on PTA priorities. Pick a bipartisan ask, you know, makes it a lot harder for them to say no when it's already bipartisan. At least makes it a little bit harder. They still may say no, but try to be really mindful of what you're asking that office if it's in the realm of something they can support. Staying positive and really starting to build that rapport. As a trusted organization, that PTA is representing their constituents, which I think Penny, you alluded to, and was really great to tie that in. And then just wanted to flag in that scenario, the great redirect and sort of push off to national PTA staff. If you get in a situation where they're asking you something that either you don't know the answer to, or it is something you don't want to touch, by all means, that is why national PTA staff is there to say, or you have full support to say, you know, that's not something I am able to speak on, or I can't speak to that right now, but please reach out to national PTA government affairs staff. And then that way you're not put in an uncomfortable situation, or you're not saying something that you don't feel confident in. So just wanted to highlight those two things, and then pass it off to any other government affairs team members on any comments or thoughts on an unfriendly office meeting, as well as the legislation committee, before turning it over to questions or comments.
Hey,
I would, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
I want to press on the importance of adding in a personal story. I know everyone's nervous and we can get in there and we're just rolling off facts and bills. That's just a lot of times going over their head. When you connect a true human story, and the story I told is 100% true and factual and did occur with me, and that's why I'm very passionate about youth mental health. It provides a human connection. They are seeing your face, whether it's virtual or in person. And I always find that speaking from the heart when you're telling the story and connecting it with the bills really grabs their attention. It does not, whatever political affiliation, it grabs it in, because it's a connection, because it's at the end of the day, we're all humans. We all have hearts, but that it really can bring an alert when they've just heard the data. I know Penny was shaking her head, the data and the stuff over and over again, but I've often found that it helps perk up their ears, especially when you're a constituency of their district.
And to build on that, Sarah, you know, I think that when I do trainings for folks on advocacy, you know, people are so nervous going into legislators' offices and rolling off all these statistics. But what I remind parent advocates is that you are the expert of your own story. You are the only person that knows it, your kid's story, the story of your school, the story of your community. And so that's where you can ground your advocacy and your comfort in. Like when you tell them about what it impacts how it impacts your community and how it feels, those things, you can bring it to a real example, like Sarah did, and I shared my loss. I think those things are the kind of things that can create a connection with the member or the staffer that might help them remember you and help them listen to you.
And just to add on to that, I think the other thing that we need to make sure we stay mindful of is, you know which bucket your legislator is a part of. Which bucket will they fall into? Have they already signed on to the legislation? You know, find out, you know, the people that you're speaking with, you know, which one do they fall into? Are they already an ally? They've signed into it and you need to be asking for something else? Or is it that, you know, most of them put out newsletters or something, so you can find, if they're difficult, to find that common ground, you know, to find something to agree on so that you can continue to move that agenda forward. And the last thing I would say is make sure you read the room, even as you're sharing personal stories. Don't get so far in the weeds to where you can see when people start disengaging. So you may want to, you know, wrap that up or whatever. But I would say read the room, keep getting that temperature of, you know, are they still engaged with us? Are we interacting well? Or if it's shifting, you know, then have that person who's leading the room to kind of shift it back and get back on task.
Thank you all for sharing. I was trying to pull up, I wanted to flag because you reminded me Anita about. I just want to make sure we've mentioned this resource, but I think just wanted to flag this one, and hopefully you can kind of see it on my screen. I've got too many things up here, but the crafting your ask for each Hill meeting, it really does, if you go through it kind of step-by-step of, what key committees is your member on, what are they, and I think going to, for example, you can kind of see what issues do they care about, but then you can also go here. We asked, does a member support any of the bills in our Hill ask? And on this document, we included all the bills that are in our Hill ask and direct links to the co-sponsor pages. So you don't have to go doing too much digging. You can just click on a link here. For example, hopefully this will work. I can just share it, but you click on it, it goes directly to who the co-sponsors are in the Senate, and you can see who that is right now. And so that way you're not having to dig around, but it's a really great tool for you and your state delegation to go through. And hopefully you've connected with your state delegations in advance of Hill Day. If you haven't, hopefully you can take some time as we're leading up here to do that. But this resource is so helpful and valuable as you're preparing for your Hill meetings and for really trying to differentiate between the types of meetings you will have with the various members that you'll be meeting with.
Hey, Jackie.
Yes, ma'am.
If I could quickly say this, I know we're behind. When you choose, everyone has a role, right? So when you have your group that's going to meet and you choose a role, be very aware of whom you choose for what, because I can handle the type of person that Anita was pretending to be, but everyone in your group may not be able to, right? Know your leaders. You have those who are more friendly, want to start at the beginning and really just start with the building that relationship. You have those who are very strong as closers. I think it's extremely important to know who can do which role so that you're even more successful in meetings.
Penny, I have to concur. If you have someone that's an expert on child nutrition, for example, I know in North Carolina, we do in Durham, and you're going in for that ask as priority, that's who you need to put forward on that, because they can answer those questions without even thinking it. It goes for the same for every single one of our other asks. And I just want to say, remember, these are all humans. I know people get nervous. They go to sleep and wake up just like we do. All on level playing field is what I always say. So just try to remember that.
Thank you, Legislation Committee. That was excellent performances. I do think some Emmy, Oscar nominations, all the other Golden Globes, we'll have to work on those submissions. But thank you all so much. It was really great to really appreciate your participation and just really showing all of us, the different types of kind of situations we could be in come June 15th. Just wanted to see if there was any questions. I know there's been a lot of stuff in the chat, and so appreciate Kate and Leslie monitoring all of that, but wanted to see if there was any other questions from anyone in attendance this evening. I did see a hand up at one point, and I'm sorry if I didn't get to it. I was trying to track all the moving parts here. No, I appreciate you all staying over time this evening. If you do have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out. You can email legcon@pta.org. Again, we're here to assist you if you're having any difficulty scheduling any meetings, not getting any, whatever it may be, just do not hesitate to reach out. And just another last friendly reminder plug, if you can submit any of your scheduled Hill meetings by tomorrow, that would be wonderful. Again, I understand that you may not get them all scheduled by tomorrow. We'll still connect with you and make sure we keep track of those meetings that you do have scheduled. But just let us know if we can help you in any way. And again, email legcon@pta.org. So thank you all so much, and we look forward to seeing you in a week. Can't believe it. We'll all be together in a week from right now. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
See you
Bye,
soon.
everybody.
Thank you so much. It was great, as usual.
Safe travels, everybody.